Museums are institutions created in the public interest. Museums acquire, preserve, research, analyze, and exhibit the tangible and the intangible heritage of our country, of our nation, of our world. And it is during this lockdown and the pandemic that we are most worried about it. During this time, nearly 13% of the museums around the world will never reopen. An article said, which was published on May 20th this year. Museums have specially been affected during COVID-19, and approximately 90% of them, and which is equal to 85,000 institutions, have closed their doors for varying lengths of time during this lockdown. But in the last couple of days, I hear good news. Museums are going to reopen again, and several iconic museums like the Met, V&A, and others are opening up in the month of August, but with restrictions. And with all of this happening, there is also a turn towards digital adeptness of our museums. But as a publisher who's associated with several museums all over the last decade, having published several books with them, the recent one, the last one being with San Diego Museum, the Great Mysore Bhagavata, and many others like the catalogs of National Museum, then Salarjung Museum, Allahabad Museum, and the CMVS Museum in Mumbai. It is of great importance to us that the museums return to us all over again. But while we are talking about museums and all this is happening around us, we must not forget one very important aspect of running a museum, that is security, museum security. It seems the entire world's public imagination is towards breaking it over time. For example, in Dhoom 2, and perhaps in many other Hollywood movies. And hence, we have with us Captain Pran Ranjan Prasad, former Chief Security Officer of ASI. Captain Prasad also held additional charge of IT Head and Estate Manager in ASI. He had been a faculty at Institute of Archaeology and is currently a visiting faculty at the National Museum Institute, Intact Heritage Academy, National Institute of Disaster Management, and so on. He has also authored 2 books, Safeguarding Heritage of Monumental Glory, and the seminal book, Museum Security, Challenges and Remedies. A very warm welcome to you, sir, and thank you for letting us pick your brains on this subject, on this crucial subject. So I have a couple of questions which I'm sure all of us want to know. The first question is the first question is, what is security and how important is it for museums, monuments, and the invaluable cultural heritage properties of our country and our world?
You see, security has always been an inherent characteristic of the human being and all the living animals or whatever creatures you feel. They all want to be secure on 2 accounts, basically. One is physically themselves, and second is their possessions. They don't want their possessions to be damaged or lost forever or for some time, whatever it may be. So this is an inherent characteristic. Now, coming to the museum-specific security, you see, archaeologists or even by perchance, sudden finds are there, accidental finds, you can say, of ancient cultural remains, which automatically becomes invaluable, because every item of yesteryear is a story by itself, is a history by itself. It speaks volumes about that period, what that period was, what type of utensils were being used, what type of clothes they used to wear, and all these things, because that is depicted on those iconic items. So there can't be duplicate of that. Today you can make it with your latest technological machines and all, but it will not be of yesteryear and not speaking about that era. So every item of cultural importance is a must to be kept safe and secure. For whom? For generations to come, for future generations, because they will be enriching their knowledge by seeing these in the museums or anywhere. Now coming to museum. Museum is what? You have already explained it very beautifully. So that is a repository. And obviously in the museum, no museum can have enough space to display all the items which they are in possession of. So they have basically two. One is a main museum display hall, and another we call it reserve collection. Reserve collection is actually store, and then periodically, that periodicity maybe 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, these items are interchanged. You know, from the gallery they go to store, and from store reserve collection they come to galleries for people to view. So again, the importance of this museum is that not that a person visits a museum once in lifetime and he learns everything, because he has not seen enough items there. So museum has to be safe and secure from every angle. And then I will come back again to tell you that what are the threat perceptions. Yeah. So this is how the museums, the security of museums are so important.
Yeah. Now, you're talking about the invaluable heritage that we have.
Yeah.
We're talking about the invaluable heritage that we have, but we've also heard about the archaeological looting in Iraq. We just recently got to know about that stolen tiffin box, golden tiffin box from the Nizam Museum in Hyderabad. We've also heard about that mysterious coffin, Egyptian coffin in a secret warehouse in New York. And all of this is happening despite we being so careful. So could you please elaborate on the need, which you've already done but also the risk factors in doing so, and how do we tackle them?
You see, security, I'll first let you know what are the security threats, from where does it come? There are a number of factors. Firstly, security is a very big canopy. You know, it's a very big canopy. It can't be explained in just few words or few pages. But again, you have to understand that security again is a subject specifically related to places which has to be kept secure. For example, if any building which is not uninhabited, if that has to be secured, that one guard is good enough. He will just sit outside and he will not allow anybody to come in. But in this case, in the case of museum, you have to secure also, and also you have to allow visitors to come near objects. So this is sort of, you can say, a bit of challenging task. Now, with reference to your specific question, which is very, very good, and I think you have done very excellent research on it. You see, there are two types of people. One is unscrupulous people of the society who feel great by destroying anything, by lifting, by looting, and they have no other way just to, I have done it. That is what they feel good about it. And the other one is illicit trafficking of cultural property is again a very, very big menace. And if I may say, they are virtually running a parallel government in this, and they earn a lot of money. Because you see, incidentally, I'm an Indian, and India has a lot of cultural property strewn all over the places, not secure. I mean, you go to a jungle and you'll find plenty of them because 100% have not been picked up and secured. That is one. So you can't deal with a person or with a society, with a misled people who are bent upon carrying out destruction. You see, that is one thing. So nothing can be done except sort of armed stoppage or whatever it is, if you come to know. Second, what is your specific question is about how do we carry out such drill to stop this sort of thing. Unfortunately, I have experienced in my 42 years of service, security always takes a backstage in government forum. Nobody wants to spend money on security because they feel if things are okay, why should we spend? No, security is not a manufacturing unit that every day you are getting something. Security is for, like a very apt example, what we are seeing in the country now. Suddenly, a lot of arms and ammunitions are being bought. So do you want such a situation to come and then get prepared? No. One is, proactive and reactive. There are two situations. So we, unfortunately, in this field which we are conversing with, we are not proactive.
Okay.
Because there are so many items. Because you see, any security has two aspects. One is the human training, that is the trained security people. And the second is very good equipment, which will help them in doing their job. In a present context, unfortunately, we are so hesitant to buy or upgrade any system. Well, you may see some CCTV camera have been installed, which doesn't have very good pixel, but nobody is going to upgrade it even today. So you can see somebody walking around, but who is he? It is very difficult to check. Similarly, when you see to any museum in our country and go abroad, you'll find their security is less of manpower and more of equipment based, and IT equipment based. Whereas in our case, there are more of human manpower and very less equipment. And then there are many things, we are so careless. When we say, perhaps you may include me also, because if I am helpless, then I'm useless. The thing is, we don't keep our equipments in proper condition every time. Electricity goes off, all these things. So security has a very big canopy. It has to be there, because one sentence I'll tell you, the offender needs only one opportunity.
Sorry?
The offender, any offender needs only one opportunity.
Yes.
Whereas security is a 24/7 preposition.
Yes.
You give them only one opportunity of 5 minutes and he'll do his job. So, these are the things. And, well, what you have said, unfortunately, there are some misled people who think that destroying these Bamiyan, in Bamiyan, ASI had done very good job. And the ASI Director of Conservation, Dr. Sen Gupta, at that time, Dr. Sen Gupta got Padma Shri during Indira Gandhi's time. And later on, it was destroyed by Taliban. So, it's very unfortunate. Here comes another point of education. If all are not educated, these things will happen. But luckily, for past, I think, 30 years or so, roughly, CBSE has added this chapter, archaeology. So at least now the children who are coming out of 10th and 12th, the basics are clear. They are taken to the, so slowly that change will come in the society perhaps. But then another thing is these items fetch a lot of money from abroad. So this illicit trafficking is going on. So education first, then effort, and effort to the extent to stop it has to be there.
Okay. So it has to start from ground zero. As children also we have to start. It's not a one-day process, or it's not one monument process. It's actually changing the entire how we think about museums and things like that. But you also worked on, actually you drafted the Comprehensive National Security Policy on Museums, which was assigned to you by the Ministry of Culture in 2015. Now this is about India. But do you think other countries have similar problems, or are there any particular problems in other countries which are different from ours?
No, you see, maximum problems are with our country.
Okay.
And the reason is, first is education.
Mm-hmm.
Second is the layout of museums. And their layout is excellent. I mean, I have visited about 10 of them, and you might have also visited. In our case, we just house these items in a building and we say this is a museum. No building has constructed here as per the requirements of the museum. So this creates a problem. And we have got much more problem in our country. That is because of the education, because of money which these items fetch, and socio-economic problems are there.
Okay.
But in other countries, another thing is, in other countries, like in Malaysia, if you go, there within the museum, they have an old van. Now, forget about the periodicity. In our country, any item which is called antique has to be at least 100 years old.
Yeah.
Because in our country, a lot of things are beyond that era. But in other countries, things or places of just 100 years is good enough for them. Because usse purana hai nahi unke paas. So it's okay. We must regard that. So in Malaysia, what I saw in the museums, the moment you enter, they have got a very old car, truck. And in that, they have opened a souvenir shop and toffee shop. Because that gives them money also. But in India, we don't allow any ancient structure or items to be used like this. These are the differences, you know.
Okay.
So
that gets me to the next questions. There are two questions actually, but I'll ask one after the other. Many museums are facing financial instability at this point, especially, and that crisis and the tug of war for finances are always there. So what are your views on this, and how do we make them financially more sustainable? Does this come under the purview of museum security?
no, it doesn't come under museum security, but the suggestions can always be given. Because museum security or security anywhere is something like you are asked to defend, and you have to defend within that parameter. You can't ask for a moon from so, but yes, suggestions are welcome, and you have thought of very good point. Yes, some money has to come for sustainability, not only sustainability, in fact, for betterment of museum. So in my view, what I feel is that we must change the layout of museum. Layout means area. These days in India, everywhere you go, museums are housed in building. That's all. And the premises are either big or small, whatever it is, but those premises are not being used for commercial purposes. Whereas in go abroad, even a smaller country like Doha, Qatar, you will see that they have made the museum in a very big area, and a large area has been outsourced for food court. So people go there, have their refreshments and all that, and even small souvenir shops are there, many of them. So that is how you earn money from them by renting them out. Okay. So that is one preposition, because I am against raising ticket value, because ticket value, what would you do? 5 rupees to 50 rupees, but then footfall will reduce. Obviously footfall, because India is a poor country.
Yeah.
So what you want is footfall to increase. In fact, I'll go to that extent that let school children and everybody go free of cost, but because of the souvenir shops and other places, let them earn indirectly. Museum should earn indirectly.
Yeah.
That is one. Second thing is marketing museum. Marketing museum, when I say, means there are plenty of NGOs. They can, and especially education related and all that, they should be encouraged to videograph. Either they can buy video from museum, or they can shoot themselves. Educational sort of background, and for their students, and they must pay to the museum. So this is another. Third thing is tour, conducted tour. So by the foreign delegates and things like that. So it is a multifaceted approach one will have to do, and money will come. But if, like, I don't know, what are your feelings? Mostly when you ask children or even young people, when you come to the museum, they say, no, that is a very boring place. I mean, this sort of approach has to go. You know, you have to make it interesting. You have a documentary running there from morning till evening of, say, 10 minutes, 15 minutes repeatedly, so that they go there, they sit in the auditorium, watch that, and that audio video should not be for that museum only. It can be of any place in the world. So there are a number of places. These are very few which I am describing, but then many can come from people. And then there's T-shirts and all that with the print of museum and things like so a lot of things are there which can fetch money.
No, I absolutely understand marketing museum. I'll just narrate two instances that I remember all of a sudden right now while you were speaking. One is Bihar Museum, the newly constructed Bihar Museum. Now, what happened when we are walking through the entire museum? It's quite big. We got exhausted, and in the sense we were not physically exhausted, but there is so much to grab in that we got a little tired. So there was an auditorium on the way. So we sat down, and there was continuous videos about the collection being played there. So you can't, if you're not reading all of them, but at least if you see the video, if you see the documentary, you get a lot of it with you. So you don't come out of it empty-handed. And then you're talking about marketing. I think marketing of museums, the most interesting example which I encountered recently was in Turkey, in Cappadocia. So they have this 50 stories underground building, which were constructed so many years back. And they had, since it's an underground museum, of course they constructed the top, but there were no buildings, they didn't allow any buildings to be constructed before or on the way. For at least 100 kilometers or approximately 50 kilometers, no construction could happen there. So they made kacha, the small sheds like shops for the souvenirs and everything, and the parking was at least 600 to 800 meters away, straight line away from the museum. It was a unique experience because you could actually see the souvenirs and try to guess how the museums looks like. And it was quite an interesting thing, and they marketed themselves very well. But which gets me to the next question, which is about the building structure. Now, many new museums which are coming up, they focus. They're focusing much more on the transparent skin and bones structure of building, and which is evolving in parallelly with technology. Do you think there is, as you said, a link between? Could you elaborate the relationship between museum architecture and security?
Yes, of course, any day.
Hmm.
You see, uh, firstly, I'll say that any construction of this type
Hmm.
be, uh, has to be part of town planning.
Hmm.
Like building is one, and the surrounding area is another, which has to be taken care of. Like for example, my take is that at least up to 50 meters or 100 meters around any museum campus, there should be no warehouse, no petrol pump, no such highly inflammable sort of dump, which may ultimately cause problems at any point of time. So this should be very much part of town planning. That is one. Second thing is security should be uh, involved in the planning stage. Some expert from security. Another point comes here. You must have heard about these days. It's very popular these days. Security audit. Security audit. That have you got your security audit done? Even it will go for your office.
Yeah.
Have you done security office of your security audit of your office, of your house, of your company? So what is security audit? Security audit is nothing but from every aspect, civil engineering, electrical engineering, water, everything, that your place should be safe in the structure.
Yeah.
Incidentally, I quote, I will not name the museum, but I must quote here one thing, that in many museums, or rather in construction in our country, I don't know why it is, we start construction concept from the basement, least realizing that during the rainy season or otherwise the basement gets flooded to some extent.
Yeah.
And simple answer is given initially, no, there will be pump which will take out the water. Now, I have been myself present in one of the occasions while making this project, museum security, where pumps were out of order and water was up to knee deep.
What about
See,
sunsets there?
it was knee deep in the ground floor, and all over the places the office documents were there on the table, kept, and fire extinguishers were there floating in the water, and statues, the stone statues and all. So what you have to make, like these days when constructing a house, these days they say that it is earthquake resistant. We are making earthquake resistant. So on the similar lines, I am telling that when you plan a museum, it should not only be earthquake resistant, but it should be resistant to many factors. It flood, because you see, at that time, suppose electricity is not there, suppose water pump is not working. Then, I mean, so it's a big exercise which should be done, and one SOP. SOP means standard operating procedure must be done, and then the work should start. Because unfortunately, till date, museums have been housed in Rajwada, Kila, and all these places. Except for National Museum in Delhi, National Museum, no other museum have been constructed separately for the museum. But even here, because of the very many numbers of statues and icons, it is becoming difficult. It needs more and more space. So this is what so yes, my take is that right from the beginning of the conception of the museum building and area, security experts must be in that group to give their views.
So, security is just not a man-made threat, but also some like human threat, but it is also about the structure that we build and everything around it. Which takes me to the next question. We know after the lockdown, most of these museums are going to operate on 80% capacity, that is, or 20% capacity, that 80% people will not be allowed at the same time. Now, is museum security inversely proportional to the number of people who walk in?
Well, the answer to this is not everywhere. At some places like Salarjung Museum, like National Museum, even Indian Museum, Kolkata, the strength is adequate. I mean, satisfactory, I will say, of because ultimately it is the man behind the gun. Because, let so many equipment be placed, CCTV camera, but ultimately it is the man who has to act. So you need good trained people in adequate strength. So all museums are not having enough strength and enough good trained people, for the simple reason that money comes into that, from where we will give salary to them. So, okay, if suppose in security audit, the report comes that you need 20 people, the authorities there unfortunately say, can't we do with 10 people? Can't we do with 5 people? Now, again, here, there is a catch. You have to think on outsourcing. Outsourcing everywhere is not good. Because if you outsourcing security, then mind you, security agencies are what? They are business people. They want money for anyway. They say, yes, 20 kya main 5 aadmi mein kaam chala lunga. Because he will get a business and earn money, and because of this business, he will get another business. So there is a lot to be thought about it. You know, adequate number of people with good technological support will only help.
Okay.
Like for example, I'll just give you a very small example. Hardly anybody remembers or knows, or even if he knows, they will not do it. There should be no tall tree nearer to the boundary wall, either inside or outside, because that can be used by wrong people. So this is a basic thing. But when you go around Delhi next time, you see and you will remember me.
Absolutely, I'll keep that my eyes open for those. But I was also wondering, like people walking in, like us, like normal people, visitors walking in. If there are more people, more visitors, does that mean higher security threat, or lower people means higher security threat?
No, this has got no bearing whatsoever whether there is 1 person or 100%, because security is a system-based thing. It is a system-based. Okay, like for example, whosoever is going in, they are frisked, they are being checked, their bags are being checked, and if suppose that bag is not allowed, then there is a place to keep it, cloakroom, where they can keep safely. So whether it is only thing where it will impact is the timing. If suppose people are there, they can just walk in. If 100, then every person is being checked. You see, like if you have been to Taj Mahal ever, you will find at times that a queue is about half a kilometer, 1 kilometer long, because individual checking is taking place. So security threat doesn't increase, it's the checking time only increases. That's all.
And the blind spots, perhaps.
No, blind spots, yes, I agree with you, there are blind spots, but then what for security is there? They must know which are the blind spots. And again, with blind spot, there are timing also. You know, every time that blind spot will not be that blind spot. And for that, we have got excellent gadgets these days.
Yeah.
Like one thing is called head count. Head count is when you place at the entrance inside the hall, that keeps on giving how many people are in and how many are coming. Like you see in car parking, that how many slots are vacant, how many slots are filled. So head count machine. But then again, don't trust on that machine only. Finally, at the end of the day, while locking the door of that gallery, you must go, security person must go around physically and see.
Yes. That double checking is necessary.
Yes.
Now the next question is about, so we're talking about housing and so buildings and structures of the museums and everything. But then I went to Japan and I went to this open air museum called Hakone Museum. And of course, there they actually put the artifacts and the buildings and architectures over there. But then in India also, we have monument complexes like Hampi and Qutub Minar and all those things. They are our heritage and comparable to a museum. What do you think about the security in such setting? And does it prove to be a greater challenge?
No, there is no challenge whatsoever if a thorough survey and exercise has been done beforehand. And system has been adopted that way. Whatever suggestions are given, because you see, what is security basically? Security basically is a security person should be able to see the entire area. Simple as that. It should be under his visual area. So, threat will always be there. Unless there is threat, nobody will respond to our needs. You know, they will say security people are no good. So, let there be challenge, and we are ready for taking up the challenge. But my take is again that security personnel and the organization must be involved right from the beginning. Not they should just place it. And secondly, what you said about the Sakone, I will tell you one thing. These days, museums are not confined to only heritage items or antiquities. These days, there are thematic museums. Like Sachin Tendulkar's cricket bat and everything is also there. Then even I believe, because they had called me some years ago, but I couldn't go because of time. This Rajnigandha people are making that Panpara. So they had called because they wanted to make one museum in Chandni Chowk area of their factory and everything.
Yeah. Okay.
So it is thematic and let them make, there's no problem. But then again, what is a museum? People are certainly mistaken. Museum is museum, and then there are two more segments of it. One is called what you can say, sort of visual gallery, where photographs and things can be there, or thematic sort of thing. So they can have that, or call museum whatever. So anything is possible, and in any, you never know, someday Ambanis will also have their museum. Museum, for security, there is no difficulty. Challenges will be met appropriately, provided it gets the nod of the authorities in terms of requirement and budgetary support, because any security requires budgetary support.
Yeah. Okay. So now the next question is on the digital age that we are in right now. Now, as more and more museums are going digital, they have their own apps and they have their own website wherein they showcase some of the artifacts in their museums. Do you think there is a problem of copyright theft? How do we protect those copyrights of these artworks and especially in art museums?
No, copyright must be protected, and there must be some way, because I am not aware of. But then this is a take which museum senior authorities and the ministry has to take, like director generals of the museums and of course ministry. So there will always be a solution to a problem. Don't worry.
Okay.
But your worry is quite genuine.
Yeah. Okay. So, like we talk about, its security is perhaps one of the basic necessities of a human being right now, and we must not forget it for our cultural heritage as well. Thank you very much for answering all my questions and giving us a lot more to think about, and perhaps we can learn, all of us can learn a lot from it and try and implement it and understand how we can add value to our museums and at the same time enjoy them. Thank you very much once again for your time and those insightful words. I'm sure this is another issue of from the aspect of museum that many of our viewers are going to really enjoy and try and understand it much more better in depth. Thank you very much.
Okay, and I expect people cooperation in this. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.